And part of why I'm on this podcast, Bob, is because if I would have known about this 2 years ago before going off to Mexico and spending, $10,000 4 times in a year for my husband's stem cell therapy, and I would have been able to start him on this, which has actually worked for him, then where would we be today? We would not be where we are today. And I'm kind of mad that I didn't know about it.
Welcome to OTR, Over the Rainbow, Achieving Mental Health for Real. This podcast offers hope to many people who needlessly suffer from mental health issues. Your host, Bob Adelman, brings you information on how you can recover from any mental health issue and achieve a happier life. If you want to know more, please check out his trailer. Bob's notes on today's show follows.
Meet Darlene Greene, co-author of the best-selling book, Become Empowered: Echoes of Grace and Strength. Darlene is focused on helping people optimize their physical and emotional health without drugs or pharmaceuticals. She advocates for a new type of method for healing the mind and body called photobiomodulation technology, which involves stem cell repair of DNA. Darlene is a retired Navy commander with over 26 years of executive leadership and senior management across many diverse industries. I think this is worth a listen if conventional methods are not quite working for you.
Now, here's Bob with today's show.
Hi, Darlene. How are you today? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Bob. Thank you. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be with you today.
Thank you. The honor is mine. Could you just go explain who you are and what your goals are and what your brand is and all that?
You bet. So I'm Darlene Greene. I'm a retired Navy commander. I have over 26 years of experience in executive leadership and senior management across really a lot of diverse industries, from being a vice president of strategic technology partners at McAfee, which was then Intel, to becoming a boarding school dean of the Culver Girls Academy. Currently, my full-time position is a director of client services for a high-tech network and security company. But my passion is helping people activate their stem cells by elevating GHKCU, repairing DNA, reversing their age, and getting out of pain using the latest photobiomodulation technology.
You had mentioned before the show, in the green room, as they say.
Yes.
I like the other guy I listened to, he said in the green room. Were you actually in a green room? I don't know.
Well, I thought my last name is Green, so I'm always in a green room.
Oh, there you go. That's a good answer. Okay. So what I wanted to speak about is you had said that I guess in the late 30s, early 40s, you had a bout with depression. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I sure can. I was going through a very contested custody battle and divorce with my ex-husband, and my children's health and welfare was at risk. And we did very, unfortunately, a tough court battle that ended up crossing over 10 years ultimately. And it was a lot of courtroom time, a lot of late night burning the candle and hiding everything from the kids so they didn't know it was going on. But I was very anxious, depressed, had to learn, certainly had to do all of the things possible to take care of myself. Otherwise, I ended up taking it out on my children. So I tried different medications. There was a time when I was in therapy twice a week just to stay on top of it so that I was not taking anything out on my kids. And because the anger and the frustration of not being in control and not being able to protect them was horrifying.
I understand that.
The expense of the court ended up costing me $750,000 over the 10-year time frame, which I didn't have. So I was taking out loans, and I was being a single parent, and I'm trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And so the stress was really high, and the anxiety was really high. And I tried a multitude of medications, and I did medications for many years, and they helped. But I think the thing that I will say that helped me more than any of that was when I found EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Yeah.
I loved, I don't know if everybody.
I heard that was very good.
Yes, I don't know if everybody responds as well as I do, but that was amazing for me and my daughters. Actually, both of them. We found a doctor that did children without EMDR. That was really, really helpful for us.
The word of warning in that is I've talked to people that did have a bad session. Probably had to do with who was doing it, where they just freaked out a little bit. But I heard a lot of good things about EMDR.
Yeah, I think so.
How about EFT? Have you heard of EFT? I had that on the program.
I have heard of that. I haven't done that, but I have heard of that, and it sounds amazing. Mm-hmm.
It's a little risky for me because if I go too deep into myself, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Some people can do it. Some can't. I would say people that have just had, I don't want to say just, but had it horrible PTSD, those people could probably try EFT, but I'm not sure it's good for people who are pretty much born with depression, a chemical imbalance they say it's not a chemical imbalance, but whatever it is, it's real and it has to be dealt with at some point in time.
Yeah, and I was actually diagnosed with PTSD at one point, and not from, here I am a Navy commander, and it wasn't because I went to battle or I was in a war, but it was from my own battle over protecting my children in a court, and to the point where I would shake. Official correspondence would arrive in the mail, and I would start shaking because I was getting $60,000 bills in the mail in a month, and that's enough to just how am I going to make it through this month and pay this bill and keep the kids safe and all of those things.
Yeah, just curious, when you were in the Navy, right?
Yes.
What was your position and what was the experience of war like? I mean, was it a war or was it just something else?
So I did not deploy to war. I was a commanding officer on 3 different locations. And my last commanding officer position, I had 1,200 people that were under me that we were preparing to go to war. And many of them were sent over. In fact, a third of them were sent over to Afghanistan. And we were preparing them and training them and making sure they were administratively ready and their security clearances were ready, all of the things that you do administratively. And what I found, and this is that silver lining that we talk about, Bob, the silver lining that you're creating with your podcast. And I want to just stop for a brief second and just thank you for all that you do for all the people that are listening to your podcast, that your bravery and your courage and your transparency and your vulnerability are inspiring. I can't even believe I'm actually talking on a podcast. I would not have the courage to do this if it weren't for so many people just like you who are really putting themselves out there and being vulnerable to help other people.
Thank you. That's so kind.
Absolutely. And so what I found is I was watching these folks come back from being overseas. They were deployed as individuals and they were returning as individuals, and they were not doing very well in returning. They weren't reintegrating well to their families or their jobs. And so I created with a team of people a program called the Returning Warrior Weekend Program. And we brought in, we built it. So we went looking for a program, but there wasn't a single program anywhere in the world that helped individuals. They were all centered on teams or units or commands, groups, large groups going and coming back. But one of the big issues here was people felt alone. They thought they were the only one that had these issues. They had gone over there and they'd come back alone. So we were dealing with kind of a unique audience. So we built a very unique program, and we brought them together with their spouses for a weekend that helped them to identify and see each other and hear each other's story and start talking, which you've identified already as is a very important part of the process of therapy. But they began to talk for the first time ever. And the spouses actually heard stories. They said, I had no idea he would never ever or she would never ever talk to me. So we had therapy. We had people doing EMDR on the site. We had counselors and therapists, and we had chaplains and doctors.
It's not, the armed services are very important, and it's very important that we treat our soldiers after they come back. But it's not just them.
That's right.
It's the guy you see on the street, or the guy that they put in an institution, or the guy that's homeless.
That's right.
Those are the people that also need some help.
That's right.
Because let's face it, we haven't had an era, I think, that where parents really knew how to be a parent. Really, I'm not being negative. I'm trying to say that we haven't had a period in time where I would say that parents were up on mental health.
Right.
I mean, they're more like that now, but my parents returned from World War II, and if you were either nuts or you were not nuts. Binary thinking.
Yeah.
You did this or you didn't do this. And everybody has a tendency to think that. I, for years, was embarrassed about myself because I couldn't do things that other people could do. I screwed up things. People hated me a lot of times if they didn't get to know me. And I would sit in the dark and think, why me? Why am I the only one like this? And it took just a freak of nature to snap me out of it. There was believe it or not, a rap singer. I listen to all kinds of music. I'm very eclectic with my music. And my son said, listen to this guy. His words are very good. So I started listening to his song. His rap name is NF, Nathan Bernstein. I haven't mentioned him in a long time because people are like, oh, rap, you like rap? Forget it. He started telling me on stage that he had mental health issues. And I'm looking at it and I'm hearing the music and I'm not believing it because he's saying everything that I had.
Wow.
He's saying everything that I went through. And for the first time, a light went on and I said, oh my God, there's more people like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I hit the Facebook groups, and then I learned a lot, and I'm still learning because there are a lot of good people out there who are trying to pave a way to some kind of better place for people like us.
Right.
Because certainly the last 40 years or so, 50 years have not been easy, and it's not easy. Now, every person goes through a lot, and nothing's easy in this world. But we are people that have to put up and learn how to lose. We have to learn how to lose and get up. I don't know if you ever saw that movie with Rocky. There's a big speech he makes about the whole thing is get up.
Yeah.
Get up off the mat because you're better than that, he says. You're better than that. And I think there are listeners out there are better than that, and they can make it happen. And I'm going to be here as long as God lets me, and I'm going to try to make it happen, really happen. Because if you think about 6 degrees of separation, I cover the world. When I tell one person, it covers the world.
That's right.
Because he knows 2 people, and they know 2 people, and they know 5 people. And, just look at all these accounts, these media accounts. Oh, you have the common friend. I never even heard of the guy who's the common friend. But everybody is connected together in some kind of thing. Now, I don't really believe in afterlife, but I'm not ruling it out either. But I think everybody is connected, and we're just a lost culture, and it doesn't have to be that way. The world could be a much better place to live in if we put some effort into it, and if we could just not be afraid so much of ourselves.
Uh-huh.
I think we have to face the demons, tell them to go away. I mean, if you face your fears will leave because they're like bullies. They don't want to stick around if if they don't have you trapped, if they don't have you as their prisoner. They don't want to stay around if you're okay. So you tell them, get lost. Or you tell them, stay here, sit right down. We're going to have a chat. Here's what I need you to do, fear. You don't come out until the lion comes or what other scary thing there is. And you just stay right there next to me because you know what? You don't have any power over me anymore.
Right.
And that, I think, is the thing that you have to say. I really believe that. And I think the world is going to change if we have the time to do it. And I hope that happens because this is a damn good world,
Yeah.
I mean, just think of it. What if everybody disappeared tomorrow? Okay. And you had enough food, you were able to hunt, whatever. You'd be stuck with yourself. But is that so bad to be stuck with yourself on a beautiful planet? I don't think it's so bad. I'm getting on my soapbox. I'll probably cut half of it off. But, one thing that you believe in, and I hesitate to believe in sometimes, is a fix that fixes a lot of things. To me, I look at Omega XL and all those other commercials, and I say, I don't want to be a podcast that has that. But I also don't want to pass it by as well. Apparently, there's something called the placebo effect. Have you heard of it?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why they do double-blind placebo-controlled studies, right? To try to...
That's right. But that's what could happen in this situation where you have something that has not gone through that process that you just described.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know of any double-blind tests that were done? First of all, tell us about your product.
Sure.
And I'll shut up for a while.
It's enjoyable to hear you. So I will say first what led me to this. I am married to an amazing man now, and we've been together 20 years. He is the sweetest of all. But about 2 or 3 years ago, he was diagnosed with early Alzheimer's.
Sorry.
Thank you. It was a very steep and significant neurological decline that we go to the Banner's Alzheimer's clinic and they say, well, this is where he is. Come back in a year. We'll see where he is next year. There's really nothing we can do. So I did a lot of research and looked into all the different things that were possible, different modalities we went out of country and did IV stem cells 4 times in a year at $10,000 a pop. We did hyperbaric chamber. That actually didn't help at all. Neither of those things helped or made things any better. I think actually hyperbaric may have made them worse. We did ozone therapy. We did hydrogen water. We revamped the diet. We followed the Dr. Bredesen protocol. We took out every bad thing in the diet from alcohol, and sugar, and white flour, and bad fats, and anything genetically modified diet. So all that stuff came out, and only good things went in. So we were working on a sleep protocol, everything. Nothing really made a difference. He had gotten to the point where he was really sleeping most of the day. He was sleeping 3.5 hours a day, falling asleep at 7 at night, disengaged from conversations. It was just too challenging for him. It was too exhausting, and he was just not able to find the words. He would ask me the same questions 7 times in 3 minutes.
Oh, I just had a question. I was thinking about him. How do you think he felt going through this? Do you sense that he was very afraid or just out of it? Or how would you say his state of mind was?
Initially, I think he was sort of okay. He was sort of watching it happen. There were moments where he was very sad. And at the point about 7 months ago, what I saw was sort of just disengagement. He was just no longer himself. His personality was to try to be funny, and that was a huge part of who he was. And he was just not even trying.
Right.
So we were introduced to this therapy. It's a patch. It's a most remarkable technology. It's, in fact, one anesthesiologist called it the most significant medical breakthrough of his lifetime. And that's a 40-year anesthesiologist doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So what this does, this patch elevates a peptide, a copper peptide in your body called GHKCU. And I'll talk about what all that does. But one of the most important things that does is it then increases stem cells. So when I was going out of country and getting stem cells, or somebody else's, who knows what the quality is, who knows what they do inside your own body, but these are your own. So when you are 30, you only have half of your stem cells active any longer. 50% of them are dormant. And when you're 60, which I think you're around 65 and I'm 58. So we don't have many that are left doing anything for us.
Right.
So we are living with very few, if any, active stem cells. So they're dormant. They're floating around in there. They're just not doing anything for us. When that's why we age. That's why we don't heal very quickly. And that's why our brain doesn't repair very well. Well, in the very first week of wearing these patches, which are non-transdermal patches, there's no medicine going in your body. It's just reflecting your light, sort of like when you go outside in the sun and you're in the sun and your body makes vitamin D from the light signal, or melanin for a suntan. It's that same technology, only you have light inside of you. If I looked at you with night vision goggles, I would see light inside of you, right?
That's correct.
So this is just like a little tiny mirror made of nanocrystals that's reflecting light back at a very specific wavelength. And what it did in that very first week is he did not nap at all. There was no 3.5 hours. He'd been doing that for a year. He stopped napping 3.5 hours. He didn't fall asleep at 7 p.m. He was chattier than he had been in years. He was engaged. He was with it. He was replying quickly and appropriately and not asking me the same question over and over again. Thank you, Lord Jesus. He was funny and flirty and back to his original personality. And that was all in the very first week. And then it got better. Like the second week, we had been working on his deep sleep for, I don't know how long. Sleep is a really important thing for the brain. It helps to detox, right? It's when the brain will flush all those negative things out. Well, we were working on that and could only get into like 15 minutes of deep sleep. In the second week, we recorded an hour and 25 minutes of deep sleep for him. At the 2.5 month mark, he regained the ability to whistle and drum to the beat. And his blood pressure dropped from having been at 172/94 down to 135/87, so a 37-point drop. And then at the 5 month mark, what was just remarkable is he had lost his sense of smell 15 years ago. And what we didn't know then that we now know is that's an early sign of Alzheimer's. If it's not associated with COVID or a virus or something like that, and it wasn't. So he regained his sense of smell at the 5 month mark. So really remarkable neuro. And I will tell you, you talked about the placebo effect. He really did not know what these patches were supposed to do. He didn't know what to expect. There was no expectation from him or understanding, I don't think, even of what I was doing. Like, I'm just patching him, right? But there are double-blind placebo-controlled studies. In fact, there was one done in 2019 on the brain, and you'll love this study because it's so encouraging to people who have any kind of issue going on in the brain. There are so many people that have ADHD and that have very significant issues that find amazing results. They're no longer, I have a friend, no longer taking ADHD medicine because they've experienced such a tremendous benefit. In this study, if you were to see the study, right before they started this patch, they did an EEG and the brain was red and it had all this, basically that redness on the image is inflammation, anxiety, anger, it's PTSD, it's a poor functioning brain, it's hypercoherence. The left and the right hemispheres are not communicating. They put the X39, which is the patch that elevates the GHKCU peptide and then therefore elevates stem cells. They put that patch on and 3 weeks later they tested again. And the EEG then showed all these beautiful colors of blues and greens and yellows coming in. You had Dr. Henderson on talking about photobiomodulation previously, and this is exactly what that is.
Okay.
Session 3 was then at the 6-week point. And at the 6-week point, what they found was a much better balance of colors, and people are reporting these amazing effects. So the results of this double-blind placebo-controlled study reported that, yes, it increased GHKCU, but it also supported cell and nerve regeneration, which I really need my husband to have in his brain. It balanced the brain. It balanced those left and right hemispheres. It improved coherence. It improved the nervous system. It lowered anxiety. It decreased brain inflammation, improved memory, improved focus, improved cognitive brain function, and improved task processing, including the harder the task, the better the improvement.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit too good to be true. It does sound like that. One thing I read about that I have to put a little bit of warning up for, it says it could lower your blood pressure for people that have low blood pressure or whatever, and it has several things listed as headache, fatigue. I mean, it's the same thing on every drug, really. But
since there's no drug in this, it's just your body. Your body is finding homeostasis. So if I were injecting GHKCU in you, that might be a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But because this patch is just light, it's just photobiomodulation, it's your own body making the proper levels of GHKCU. I've not heard any reports of people who have, if they have low blood pressure, their blood pressure is typically increasing. That's what I have. I didn't really tell you my story, but my story is kind of a mess. I have all sorts of autoimmune issues: fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia. I actually had to take fluorocortisol. It's a medicine to increase my blood pressure to keep from passing out, because I kept passing out.
Mm-hmm.
And taking a lot of salt. I had regular headaches, dry skin, rosacea, all sorts of things, body aches, broken foot and a sprained ankle, all of these things when I started the patches. And what I found is, one, the most amazing thing is this patch called Ice Wave, and it took me out of pain. And that alone was just so good for I was depressed. So we talked about depression earlier in my life, but I hit a depression in February and March because it was finally becoming really clear to me where my husband was in the state of Alzheimer's. And I was in a chair, unable to go outside, unable to really move around. And I was having to ask him to bring me a glass of ice water. And Bob, that was hard for him. I'd have to tell him where the cup was and then talk him into the ice and then get him to the water. And all of that took endless patience. And it just took me down. And I started seeing a therapist, and I was like, I need help. And then I began these patches, and first the Ice Wave to the rescue. And for the first time in 5 months, I wasn't in pain. And that was huge for me. But also I found I stopped having headaches. Over time, I was no longer having to take the fluorocortisol to increase my blood pressure. I wasn't passing out. My rosacea cleared up. I lost weight without really trying. I was no longer stress eating, and I had fewer body aches. So each person, this patch brings the body into homeostasis.
Do you recommend, and I would recommend it, that a person talk to a doctor before they try it, or at least maybe two doctors?
Oh, the company always recommends that, but honestly, this is like saying go out in the sun and take in some vitamin D or eat a salad.
Mm-hmm.
There's no contraindication. The people with chemotherapy can take these patches.
Okay.
People with any kind of therapy can take the patches because there is no medicine going in your body. Your body is doing what your body knows how to do, which is heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there was another double-blind placebo-controlled study on the heart. And in 6 weeks, the study participants saw not just improvements in their whole vascular system, which, runs through the whole body, but every 6 weeks, that cardiovascular system began functioning as if it were 8 weeks younger. The very first time you put on an X39 patch, within 24 hours, it resets 4,000 of your genes to their younger, healthier state.
Okay.
We didn't used to think that genes could be expressed in different ways, but now we know the environment and other things that we do can make a difference for that.
Can I ask it?
Yeah.
Just one more question I have. Why is this not more popular? Why? I mean, They always say you can grow hair with this, but I would think if you could grow hair, people would be lined up at the store for that possibility. Why aren't doctors recommending this? Why hasn't the FDA recommended it? Do you have an answer for that?
I do. First of all, I'll say this. since the X39 patch came out, the company has grown 20 times in 4 years. So it is exploding. And I will tell you that there were over 300 Olympic athletes that were wearing the patches in the 2008 Olympics. So if the Olympic athletes are trusting their, Serena Williams and David Beckham and Michael Phelps, I just heard on the podcast that Tom Brady wears these patches. So, but why aren't they in the news? Well, I would say because the people that own the news agencies are really in bed with Big Pharma.
Yeah.
We are FDA compliant. We're a wellness product. So because we have no medicine, we aren't, that's not to say we don't have a ton of doctors who do recommend this, but it takes a very open-minded doctor to even consider light therapy. And, like Dr. Henderson is one of those,
right.
But there are, there's a dermatologist, not a dermatologist, it's a plastic surgeon, famous plastic surgeon who's gone on the Dr. Oz show and the doctors, and is renowned. People come from all over the world to see this plastic surgeon, Dr. Shiner, Adam Shiner.
Mm-hmm.
He has it taking the X39 3 months before surgery and then 6 months after, because he has found that they improve so much faster and the recovery is so much better.
Wow.
It's like 40% improved.
Right.
So, and you can see that in pictures. So I think part of it is it does sound too good to be true. Part of it is it's the direct sales model, and it's hard to get in to have a doctor look at it. But there are a lot of doctors who are utilizing this. We have a practitioner call every week, actually, for doctors. I once upon a time, and I don't know if this is still the case, I heard that 60% of the people doing the business were, in fact, practitioners. So but you're right. I'm mad that, and part of why I'm on this podcast, Bob, is because if I would have known about this 2 years ago before going off to Mexico and spending, $10,000 4 times in a year for my husband's stem cell therapy, and I would have been able to start him on this, which has actually worked for him, then where would we be today? We would not be where we are today. And I'm kind of mad that I didn't know about it.
I do not dismiss the fact that doctors are in bed with the drugs and all that FDA approval stuff. I suppose the risk is low on these, and that's why I had you on the show. If I thought there was, going to be a big problem with them in any way, I wouldn't have. As a matter of fact, the first time I turned you down, but you were nice enough to respond and explain things to me. And even though I'm a heavy skeptic of things that fix you, you do make a strong argument, and I can't really say to anyone that they should not try it. I mean, I wouldn't,
right.
I would, especially people that are dying or desperate.
Right.
I mean, I would try it if I was dying for sure. I might try it eventually anyway. I mean, I did try a little bit of first amount of cannabis. Somebody sent me some cannabis. I'm getting drugs in the mail, but I shouldn't say that. But I put it on part of my body, and I didn't see a big difference. But it's, one day, so it's not gonna happen in one day. Probably.
Cellular regeneration occurs the ice wave occurs instantly and it helps you relieve pain right away. But the cellular regeneration and the resetting of genes and that increase of GHKCU, those things take time. They say to wear the patches a month for every decade you are old to experience improvements. Most people, I think 80%, experience improvement within 3 to 6 weeks. Okay. Although I have a lot of stories of people who have PTSD who felt it within several days, just a huge lift. I told you that I had been depressed before starting the patches, but that just lifted off of me in probably several weeks. I don't actually know when it happened. It was just all of a sudden gone. And I have a relative of mine who was suicidal and who said, this took me out from my deep, dark cloud that I've been in for years. And I feel great and happy now. So I've seen a tremendous improvement from people, and there's been a lot of help for people that are veterans or other people who are not veterans. Those of us who get PTSD out of courtrooms and battles protecting our children, right? Not necessarily in war. And there are books. People can look up. There's a book called How to Reverse Aging, A Comprehensive Guide to Copper Peptides by Dr. John Harmon. And if you looked at just his table of contents, it's copper peptide in the immune system, copper peptides in the cardiovascular system, the role of copper in athletic performance, metabolic regulation, brain, neurodegeneration, cognitive function, unleashing the power of copper peptides, activating stem cells for regeneration. And he talks about all the different ways you can get GHKCU, including injections or creams or the patches. And what I did hear one doctor say is that they injected someone 4 different times in a day and still didn't get the elevation of GHKCU that our patch provided. And you can look up GHKCU in PubMed.
Yeah, I would recommend people do carefully study it. I swore to never have a commercial on this broadcast. And I don't feel that I'm doing that. I feel that I'm giving information that someone may not get in a different way and allowing them to make up their own mind.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And you can see the studies. If you go to my website, IamReverseAging.com, you can actually dive into the over 90 clinical studies. There's over 100 patents, and the inventor actually initially invented energy enhancers for our Navy SEALs, contracted by the Department of the Navy to help them stay awake for many days at a time without falling asleep, without having the use of drugs like amphetamines and things that are not good for them. Right. And that's what those first patches did. They in fact, surprisingly, when the Stanford swim team wore them, they broke 6 out of 7 of the swimmers broke their personal best records, some of which were world records. And then they became, of course, the Stanford swim coach was in close to the Olympic swim coach, and so then the Olympic swim team, and then they were all wearing them in the Olympic when they swapped the medals, and then there was this big investigation. What are they wearing? What is this patch? What is it putting in their body? Right. And they ultimately came out and said, nothing. There's nothing in this body. There's just light. It's just reflecting their own light.
I know for a fact that my doctor gave me medicine that was revolutionary. Till this day, I go to my psychiatrist and they say, what is that? Why are you taking that? It changed my life. It made me have more dopamine somehow.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but it did. And my life changed. I slept the whole weekend. Now I'm up the whole weekend.
Yeah.
I had no interest in anything. Now I'm able to do things. Because the curse of being ADHD is that you don't want to do anything because nothing is saying, oh, you did a great job. There's nothing in your brain saying, I could be proud of this, what I did. So I know for a fact that bold people prescribe medicine that maybe everyone else looks at and says, I don't know anything about it. And I know I've had situations where I went to a doctor or a psychiatrist and they did not even let me talk. They said, you're going to take X, Y, and Z, come back in a week. I said, goodbye. I said, I'm going to somebody else, sorry. And unfortunately, it seems to be that the psychiatrists that don't take any insurance are the best ones for someone with a severe case of depression, anxiety. I'm sure they do a great job in most cases otherwise, but my experience has been that the ones that have done the best for me, who I consider myself really severely impaired, they have done it and they were not taking the insurance, like I said. So I don't understand it all. It may turn out in 5 years that they're offering this, through a pharmaceutical company. Who knows? But I do appreciate that you came on the show, especially since I was not warmed up to it. And you warmed me up a little bit, but that's fine. I mean, I have one more question, but I'm not sure you want to talk about it. Could you give me a ballpark figure on how much it would cost you, let's say, on a monthly basis?
Yeah, it's It's $99 for a 1 month supply of these patches. $99. And you basically wear a patch 12 hours on and then you take it off. And when we take it off, you can put it on a loved one.
Okay. So just to be clear, it's $99 for a month's worth. It's not $99 for each patch.
30 patches.
Okay.
Basically, you get an envelope of 30 patches that you wear one a day, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, not because there's not a little bit of life left in them, but because you don't want your body to get so used to the light signal that it stops responding. It's actually more effective to just wear it the 12 hours than to keep wearing it around the clock.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I'm good with it at this point. Will I try it? I'm not sure. Maybe. How long does it take to be effective, would you say?
So, there are people who are one patch miracles and they feel it right away. But 80% of people, it takes 3 to 6 weeks for them to feel the difference. I would say that's about my experience with the people that I know as well, that most of them experience something within 3 to 6 weeks. And really amazing things pretty quickly.
Okay. I keep saying one last question, but I hear this broadcast and I instantly want to get some. What do I do?
So you go to my website, IamReverseAging.com.
Which will be in the description of the show. I'll have all your links.
You can look and watch a video on how it works, and you can order from there, but I would almost prefer that you reach out and contact me and that we set up a consultation. We talk through your situation, but you can order X39. You can order 3 X39 for $299. You can order 2. My recommendation for everyone is really X39 plus. There's an anti-inflammation patch, Eon. And I would recommend the 2 for this reason. Eon, reducing inflammation is very powerful. Inflammation is so much the root of so much evil, and our brains are filled with inflammation. And if we can and inflammation eats up our stem cells. So we can reduce inflammation while we increase our GHKCU, which then increases our stem cells, then we have stem cells that can go to work for us and heal. And that's the difference here between this and medicine. You stop taking this, you have already fixed and repaired and regenerated these cells. You're not just masking a symptom, you're getting to the root issue. And that's the difference.
So how long should you try it? Let's say you're not getting better.
Try it a month for every decade you are old.
Okay.
A month for every decade you are old. So for you and me, you would be 6.5 months. I'm 6 months. I did notice things faster, but then I was wearing a lot more patches than just X39 and Eon. You could get, and the Eon is only $49 for 30 patches, by the way. So you can get 2 X39 and 2 Eon for $299. And it's really the most best investment in yourself that you could possibly make. And I have so many stories of people that had Parkinson's and had been tremoring since they were 5 years old. A very dear friend of our family who in 3 weeks was no longer tremoring. Right. And came over and said, she could not pick up a fork and keep food on it without holding it with her other hand or hold a glass of water without it shaking. And in 3 weeks, that was gone. And so she came over, she said, I want to try all the patches and I'm signing up for friends. But there are others, like people that have autism, people that have very severe genetic disorders that really people have given up on. There's just, what do you do? There's nothing you can really do except give them these medicines. No, this one 16-year-old friend of mine whose daughter initially was testing in kindergarten, in 5 weeks on just X39, was all of a sudden testing in the upper 3rd grade, lower 4th grade academically. And in 9 months on the patch, she has the executive function now of a 16-year-old. That was not the person that did the test said, executive functioning doesn't change. Like, I don't understand. You're born with your executive functioning at a particular level and it doesn't change. Hers didn't register 9 months ago, and now it is normal at 16. So, and that translates to this child being much more mature and capable and calm. She's no longer taking her ADHD medicine, doesn't need it anymore.
Which I don't recommend that you stop medicine of any type right away. That's the warning there. You wean off the medicine. That's all.
Yeah, we don't either. We recommend you just keep everything the same. The only requirement when you're on the patch is really to drink water. You need to drink half of your body weight in ounces in water every day because your cells need
and
that.
Alcohol, is it affected at all? Or?
It doesn't. There's no requirement that you don't drink alcohol. The healthier you are, the better your stem cells can work for you. But
and how about cannabis and other drugs? Is there any?
There's no
bad mix.
No contraindications with any other medications. No contraindications. Okay. The only person that we would caution, and the company won't say they recommend it for, are people who have had an organ transplant. So they have an organ in their body that is not their own. And that's because it elevates the immune system so much that they don't want your own immune system attacking them. And that's not to say it has. They don't have any studies and they can't say it's safe.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, that's good to know that. Well, I could keep you here all day, but people tend to fall off after 40 minutes. They stop paying attention. Even if they don't have ADHD, they stop. But you were very gracious. I was probably wrong to not take you at first, but I do fear that the show will become an infomercial, and I don't want that to happen. So I challenge anyone that wants to talk on the negative side of this to give me a call. I won't give out my number, but they can reach me through my email at bobadelman@gmail.com. I don't know if everybody knows that, but I think they do by now. And just come on the show and say, hey, this is crazy. You can't do it. I feel that if we got both sides, then a person can make more an objective decision. But again, I really appreciate you putting up with me. I know I haven't been the easiest to talk to, but you're very gracious, and thank you for your time in the military. I assume you're retired.
Yes, I am retired. And I would only say this, Bob, I would not be here talking about this. I have a job. Like, this is not my job. This is my passion. And it's only my passion because I got to see what it's done for me, my husband, my family. I mean, my friends.
I know that you're saying what you believe, and that's good. I feel it, but I really have to. I have a responsibility to the people that listen to this show, and the last thing I want to do is make them pay money for stuff that doesn't work. But again, it's their decision, not mine.
There is a money-back guarantee, by the way. There is a money-back guarantee. There's a money-back guarantee.
Okay, how does that work?
If you buy
money-back guarantee.
So if you buy it retail, the X39 is $150, and then you have a 90-day money-back guarantee for any patches not used. And then if you buy into the program that's on my website and you buy, say, 3 months of X39 for $299, you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So, you can return then any of the patches not worn and get your full refund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, like I said, you had a lot of patience with me, and I appreciate that. And I wish you good luck with certainly your husband and your family and
thank you.
Anyone that might be sick. And again, thank you for your service. I certainly was not a person that wanted to go into any service, but I realized that it's needed, and it's very needed to protect us from a lot of bad things. So
yeah.
I appreciate that, and thanks again.
I appreciate your service, Bob. You're doing a service as well, and I appreciate you and, again, all that you're doing out there for the world. And I would not have thought of this. It's funny because I don't think of this as anything anywhere near an infomercial, because you can go look at GHKCU, and you can go get GHKCU in an injection if you want, or in a cream if you want. Anyway, you can get the book and find out all about GHKCU and all the benefits, because the benefits go well beyond what we've talked about into anti-cancer and heart and more. And it's worth investigating. And most doctors should know about that because it's been studied for 50 years and it's published really well. But I'm really grateful to you for being open-minded and considering the people in your audience that are hurting with all the different kinds of brain issues, whether that's a neurological disease or depression or PTSD or ADHD or any of those things, or autism or any of that, and all that this could do for them. So thank you for having me on your show and for the chat today. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Take care.
Take care.